Some of this would apply to a snowmobile, obviously not the tire stuff. The caster camber is going to be a little bit different. If somebody, I don't think we even have a snowmobile down. We don't have a snowmobile down. I'm not going to worry about that. Step one is set tire pressures, right? We're going to leave these tire pressures wrong because I think it's going to show us some camber, but you're going to set your tire pressures correct. This one has a flat right front tire. If I went and drove this, it would pull because it has a flat right front tire, right? So we want that to be fixed. So it says to set your pressure, measure circumference, right? That has these, right? And then write those down. Honestly, a quarter of an inch, you're probably not going to feel, right? So I wouldn't be super worried if there was a quarter inch difference. Half inch or an inch is noticeable, right? So that's kind of what you're looking for. Then I have on here, double the air pressure in the right rear tire and remeasure, right? That's to see if it changes, just for fun. Some of them will change, some of them won't, depending on the construction of the tires. Then I want you to go write it, okay? Assuming it's something that is writable, which is not looking like a lot of that. But at some point, I want you guys to go ride one with stagger. Okay? Reason is I want you to know what that feels like. I want you to feel how it pulls, how much it pulls, right? What does it feel like if it has rear stagger, okay? And then just write down your description of that. You can come back to that later after it's reassembled and off your lift if you want, okay? Okay, camber. So with the tire pressures set to correct, we're gonna check camber. This is pretty easy. You need a straight edge of some kind, and you need an angle finder. Pat has these angle finders in there. These are really cheap. They're not probably crazy super accurate at a half a degree, but within the degree or so, you'll be able to read them, right? So if there's something obviously off, you're going to see it. If you're doing alignments all the time, you might want a digital one that's a little bit more accurate than this, but for a few bucks at Harbor Freight, these work decent, okay? I can use a piece of metal, I can use a 2x4, any kind of straight edge will work for this. All I'm gonna do is put that on the tire vertically, and then stick this on here, give it a minute to find center. It has probably a half a degree. Right? So there's a little bit of camber showing up there. This has a solid axle in the back, so I would expect 0, right, on a solid axle.
Bulge of the tire.
Could partly be the bulge in the tire, right? Yeah, the bottom of the tire is going to be bulged out a little bit more than the top, right? So, but half a degree isn't something that I'm going to get really worried about. Right? So same thing over here. Recheck this one. I've got about 1 degree on that one. Part of this is my flat right front tire. Okay? So if that quarter of the machine is down like this, it is going to create a little bit of camber in the back. Right? So when I'm saying 1 degree, that's 1 degree off from 90. Right? This is reading 90, which would be 0. Right? Straight vertical 90 degrees. So it actually was showing like 89. So I'm not going to write it down to 89. I'm going to show it. I'm going to write it down to 150. Make sense? Okay. All right. Let's check the fronts. Steering's pretty much straight ahead, right? Close anyway. Let's check this one. This one has a really big bulge on the tire, right? So that's going to change my camber a bit. That one is 1 degree top out. Right, so what is that, positive or negative? Positive is top out, right? So that's 1 degree positive. Make sure you specify that on your answers, right? If I'm not sure which way it is from 0, all I do just to be able to visualize it for myself I'm looking at it and it's like this, right? And I go, oh, it's 20 degrees of camber, holy cow. And then I go, well, where's 0? And I just move my tool to 0, and I can see that the gap is on top. Right? That tells me that it's top. It's easy to visualize that when it's 20 degrees. When it's 1 or 2 degrees, it might not be that obvious which way you are off, right? So you can just move your tool towards the 90 to determine the top out of the bottom. Okay, positive or negative. Good with that? Yeah? Okay. Last one. This one's negative 1 degree. So this was negative 1 degree, that was positive 1 degree. Coincidence? How come this one's negative 1 degree, that was positive 1 degree?
It's tossed the other way.
Flat tire, right? It has the machine leaned like that. Right? If we fix that tire, they're probably both 0. Right? Tire pressure. Okay, next thing is caster. So I talked about that this is like, how am I going to take these tools and figure out what the inclination of the ball joints are? It's not where I can do with yours.
I'm not sure even how you. I don't know.
All right. So what we're gonna do is, if you imagine that I have my fingers are gonna be my caster line, right? Imagine it really dramatically in its own here to understand. If it was straight up and down, okay, 0, and then I have a pin on that spindle that my tire's attached to, correct? And I rotate it like this, will the camber on the tire change as I rotate it? It won't, will it?
Shouldn't.
That ball joint straight up and down. What if I tilt that thing back, like dramatically? Okay, so now I have a caster angle like this. My arm is the spindle pin. What happens when I turn the wheel? Is the camber gonna change? Yeah, and that's a lot of geometry. It's gonna be what? Right? Okay, it's like this. I have 0 camber. I turn the wheel left. Where'd the top of the tire go? In a bunch?
Still not working.
Right? So this is my tire, right? This is my spindle. Instead of straight up and down, I swing it like this, my camber stays zeroed. If I have a bunch of caster, when I turn the wheel, what is my camber doing? It's changing a bunch, right? Might go positive, might go negative, depending on which way I turn the wheel. So the more camber change we get as we turn the wheel, the more caster we have, okay? If I wanted to measure this actual angle, what I need to do is turn it 90 degrees, right? In a full 90 degrees, I would see the caster angle by measuring the camber, okay? Can you turn the front wheels of this four-wheeler 90 degrees?
Nope.
Sure can.
Can you?
They're going to go about 20 degrees each direction. Full lock to full lock, right? Approximately. What's 20 plus 20?
40.
40. 40 is almost half of 90, isn't it? 45 is half of 90.
Yep.
Okay? So the quick and dirty way to do this, and it's really just a number, right? If the number comes out slightly wrong, because guess what? There's no specs for caster. You won't find a service manual that has a caster spec for a four-wheeler, right? So if the number comes out wrong, so what? As long as I did it the same on both sides, right? So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to full lock right, and I'm going to measure the camber on the right front wheel. Then I'm going to go to full lock left, and I'm going to re-measure the camber. The difference between those two cambers multiplied by 2 is my caster. Follow the logic there? Because I turned it 40 degrees instead of 90. If you buy a fancy race car caster gauge from Longacre or Joe's or somebody who makes those, that is exactly what that tool does. So the instructions for my fancy caster gauge says, turn the wheel 20 degrees right, take a measurement, set it to 0, and 20 degrees left, take a measurement, right? But they just, in their little bubble vial, they have doubled the spacing, so it reads twice as many degrees as what it's actually reading, right? We don't need a $200 caster gauge to do that. Yeah. Full out, so just start with full out, whichever side you're on, okay? So we're on the right side first, so I'm gonna go full lock right, and I'm gonna check the camber, right? Checking camber to determine caster. I have 3 degrees, 3.5 degrees. Top out, which is positive, right? We need to make sure we know positive or negative because it might go past 0 when we do this test. So 3 degrees positive. Rinse and repeat. Same one. Yeah. I'm gonna check both sides this way. I have 1 degree positive. Still positive. What's the difference? 3 minus 1 is 2.
Yeah, 2.5.
So I have 4 degrees of caster.
Oh, did you decide to go with 3 instead of 4?
That and none of you go past 0 or not. They were both positive, right? So if they're both positive, it's subtracted 3 degrees minus 1 degree because they're both on the same side of 0. Right? But if I were to go 3 degrees positive and then I turned it and it's 2 degrees negative, then it's 5. Right? That's how many degrees it changed. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, this one is top out, right? So positive 1.
It's 3. Actually, no, it's negative. It's negative 1.
Okay, so that's 3 degrees, so I'm actually getting 6 degrees on this. Okay, so this is where we were showing a little bit of caster. Part of that maybe. Okay, so I came up with 4 degrees and 6 degrees here. They can have a little split, a degree or 2 probably, it's still right straight. If I get one that has 4 or 5 degrees of split, something is bent. That's really what I'm looking for here because I can't adjust that anyway, right? Who cares? I can't adjust it. Well, it doesn't drive straight on one mile. Right? So I need to have the ability. Everybody good with how we did that? Pretty simple, right?
You can adjust it, but get a big difference like that. I think it's probably because it's out of shape, so in a way you can adjust it if you can find a way to bend it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to figure out the lower A-arm bend because we hit a stone.
So you can adjust it by fixing it.
Let's put a new A-arm on it, right, and confirm that it's correct. It's weird that they don't put the a crash repair, it would be really nice to be able to repair that. More annoying than that is Super ATV is a company that makes caster camber adjustable A-arms. And I called that one time because I was installing a kit and I said, what's the caster supposed to be? And they said, they gave me a lengthy explanation of what caster is. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the spec? And they're like, oh, well, we don't have one. Like, you gotta be kidding me. You guys are selling adjustable A-arms to the general public, not just to mechanics, with no help on where should I be putting this, right? 1 degree, 38 degrees, like there's a lot of range of what that could be, right? If all else fails, 5 degrees is a number I like, right? Give or take, right? The higher that number is, the heavier the steering will be, the better directional stability, right? So 5 degrees is a pretty easy number to get. This one came out at 4 and 6. If that tire was flat, they might hold measure at 5. Okay, so this is a non-power steering four-wheeler, so honestly, it might be nice if this one was more like 2 or 3 degrees, just so that it wasn't so hard to steer, right? Power steering, we could probably push that up a little bit, maybe 6 or 7. If we have enough help that we don't wear the thread out, right? Okay. Cruising right along. All right, toe in, toe out. This is honestly the one that you're going to do the most and the one that we need to be able to get right pretty easily. So, I can pretty easily just measure the toe. Okay, this happens a lot in the dealerships. I want to do this at spindle height, right? So approximately the height of the center of that wheel. Why would it matter that I'm doing it at spindle height?
Isn't the toe, isn't it right that area?
If I have camber, it's going to measure different up here than it does down here, right?
Makes sense.
So what's really important probably is that I measure it in the front and in the back at the same height, right? Spindle height honestly might be a little tall for some machines because when I look at the back, I can only get my tape measure so high, right? I hit the frame. So this one's pretty close to spindle height, but look at that, right? You need to measure the same height front and the back, and that's going to be dictated by the back, right? So I need to probably a partner to help me with this. Ryan, why don't you take the end of that and stick it right on that seam in the middle of the tire.
Should I go on the tread?
Like this. Yep, like right on that seam. Yep. Okay. That is 36 and 1/8, I would call it. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing in the back. Happy? There. 36 and 1/16. Okay, so the rear was smaller than the front. How much toe do I have? 16th toe out. Okay? If the front was smaller, that's toe in, right? That's pretty close. This thing isn't like way off, right? So that's pretty close on toe. A lot of people are going to check toe that way. It's fast, right? I would prefer to use a straight edge, to be honest. I don't know that we have the right tooling here.
Yardstick?
Well, that's not.
Is this one of those times when you would, if you don't have friends, you do chalk on the floor so you can measure?
You can do it that way.
We don't all work with people.
I have something called toe plates that I use on my race car. They're just a flat piece of aluminum, and they have hooks in them that you can hook your tape measure on.
Nice.
They still kind of require 2 people, but you get a more accurate measurement. They're not expensive. Like $30 you can buy a set of toe plates.
Okay.
So would not be a bad thing to have if you were checking toe frequently in the dealership. I should have brought them in. I usually bring them in for this. But we can do it with just a tape measure if we're careful and have some help. So That toe might be within spec. I don't know what the spec is in this four-wheeler, right? That doesn't sound way out of reason. The 16th is not very much toe.
Just worry about the front wheels, not the back wheels.
Yeah, the back on this machine is non-adjustable for toe. So typically we're worried about the front. That said, a lot of the side-by-sides now with radius rods on the back are rear toe adjustable.
So how do you know if one is different than the other? I
You learn
mean,
to look at them and look for adjustability, right?
okay.
These A-arms don't have anything I can adjust. So nothing's threaded, it's all just solid bolted together.
And you would look at, if you were looking for damage, you would look just visually inspect it. And,
Yeah, and if
Okay.
we're looking for damage, we're looking for cracked paint, bent, broken parts, right?
Okay.
It might be obvious, it might not. Sometimes it's not obvious. Tabs where the A-arms mount to the frame can be ripped off, right? Or bent, so that kind of thing. Sometimes it's going to be really obvious. You're not going to have to measure. You're going to say, "Oh, that lower A-arm's broken in half. I should probably fix that," right? Okay. So we checked the toe, but what do we know about the handlebar alignment?
I don't know, is it straight?
We don't know anything about the handlebar alignment. The toe can be correct. This four-wheeler might drive straight while the handlebars are crooked, right? This is what you see a lot. So I'm going to show you a better way to do it. That was the fast and dirty way. Here's a better way to do it. I am going to measure from a fixed point somewhere on this machine. I just have to kind of pick something. It may not be like totally 100% perfect, but it's going to be close as far as the rider's perception of where the bars are, right? So I'm going to use these rack mounts, if they're handy right here. I'm going to go all the way down against the plastic and make sure I do it consistent on both sides. And I'm just going to pull a measurement to the end of this bar. 35 and 3/8, so call that. Then I'm going to go check the other side. Doesn't matter what the measurement is, I just want them to be the same. This is 34 and 7/8. Okay? So,
Is it a half inch?
so the bars are turned to half an inch. Right? Which way are they turned? Turn to the right. This measurement was shorter than that measurement, right? Okay, so grab a couple straps.
This is looking familiar.
It is? You've seen
Yeah,
this before?
well, yeah, you had us do this on the snowmobile,
Oh, did he? Good.
but
this
it's been a
is-
while when we were doing PDIs.
That makes sense. All right, I'm just gonna use these straps to, we said it was turned right, yeah. Use these straps to adjust this a little bit. The reason I use the straps is I want it to stay straight as I make my adjustments. 35 1/4. Red at 35.
Too close.
Pretty close, getting kind of nitpicky.
You know what?
Get
If-
within an 8th, you're in good shape. 35 and an 8th, right? So that's gonna probably be right on both sides. 35 and an 8th. Okay, what do you do if it has a steering wheel?
There should be something.
Just sit in it and visually center the steering wheel, right? So like if you were driving it, you would feel like, yes, the steering wheel is straight. Right? So on handlebars, we're gonna measure them and strap them. On a vehicle with a steering wheel side by side, we're just gonna get it and center the steering wheel, okay? Now we know the handlebars are pointed straight. We don't know that the wheels are pointed straight, right? The toe's right, but the wheels might be crooked one way or the other. Good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. Starting to see how we can be correct toe but incorrect handlebar alignment.
Yeah.
You're gonna take the front wheels to where they need to go straight. As a rider, you're just gonna end up with your handlebars. Alright. They usually do this with jack stands, but you guys all like my jack stand out. So we're gonna do this with these whip blocks and they're terrible. It's gonna fall down 3 times.
Do you want us to hold it? to keep it from doing that?
Because it has to stay stationary. This is-
Oh, I meant the okay. Never mind.
Okay, there's a start. All right. So here's what I want to do is I want to get this bar. This could be a string. This could be a laser. Right? It's just a straight edge. We just need a straight reference. And I'm gonna get that bar straight in line with where the four-wheeler should be going. Right? A couple different ways to do that. The easiest way is to measure off this back wheel. Again, I want to do this in about how tight my blocks are too tall because I don't have jack stands, right? So we want to set that bar close enough in a more ideal scenario. We're improvising. So I'm going to measure this bar off of this back tire. I'm going to use the bulge on the side of the tire, right, front and back. I'm not going to go to the tread block on one side and not to the tread block on the other side. You can also do it to the rim, but that's a shorter radius, right? So any mistake I make back here, say I miss by 1/8 of an inch back here, that's going to be quite a bit more than that up there, right? As that line goes farther out crooked. So this is where it pays to be accurate, right? So I'm going to try to go off the sidewall here. Take a measurement. We're going to call that 7 1/4. This is 7 1/8. Okay, so what do I need to do? Front of my bar needs to come out, or the back of my bar needs to come in. Right?
And there's no possibility that your back tires are not straight.
This is a solid axle, so that's a good question.
So you're just gonna have to have faith in.
Assuming them to be correct. Now, on a four-wheeler, this works decent because they're pretty close together, and whatever small misalignment I might have here isn't gonna add up to a lot. 2 feet away, 3 feet away, right?
And this is assuming we've made
Four
the.
seat side by side. If I miss by 1/8 of an inch back here, how much am I missing for 20 feet ahead? Could be a long ways off, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you this way, and then we're going to talk about a couple of other potential ways to get this bar straight. Right, so let's scoot this in. Scoot it a little bit. Try not to knock over the front one. Okay, 6 in 3/16. 6 in 3/16. That's really close.
Well,
Yeah, okay, I can live with that. All right, so now, in theory, that bar is pointed to wherever that tire is. Okay? So if this was a machine that had adjustable rear suspension, I would want to align the rear tires first. We're not going to get super into that today because we don't have enough time. But like that razor back there, maybe we'll talk about it Friday. It has an adjustable toe and camber in back. It doesn't have a caster, but it's adjustable camber and toe. I would want to go get those correct before I start, because if that's wrong, then this is going to end up wrong. Okay. All right, so now, without moving my bar, I just come to the front and see what's going on. That is 6 and a little over 9/16. This is 6 and 5/8.
that would be 10/16.
Huh?
I did convert it 10/16, so it's the 16th of an inch.
So 1/16 of an inch go down. Right? We know what was our total toe. Right now, I measure this.
I don't remember.
Here's 16th out, right? So what's my right front gonna be? It's straight. My right front's straight.
Oh, that's
You can-
nice.
You can check both sides in a flat rate environment. In reality, if you do this and come handlebars are straight. This one's within a 16. My total toe was a 16.
Yeah.
This thing's gonna go.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody's already done this, but it should be 30 second. Perfect world, yeah, it'd be a 30-second on both sides. Yep.
All the toes on this side.
Yeah. So what's that gonna do? All the toes on this
So
side.
pull a little bit to the
What's
left.
that gonna do?
Just a little bit to the
Bars
left.
are gonna come to the right here, aren't they? Yeah. So I might have the bars slightly right when it wants straight. I don't know what a 30-second of steering you put on that's gonna look like at the bar, but it's not very much. Okay.
So does it translate? You said it's what is it? 16th. So that's all that's off up here at the steering wheel.
Yeah.
No one's gonna notice. Like I don't think I would
Yeah,
notice.
it's not right. Okay, what if it's wrong? How do we fix it? Yeah. Yeah, we moved tie rod, right? So, let me get this out of here. Some of you maybe have never done this before, so we're gonna do this. I'm gonna turn this since I'm working on this side just to give myself more room.
Get back over there.
Typically, I do not have to take the wheel and tire off to do this. I don't have to jack it up. If you look in here, there is a tie rod with 2 threaded tie rod ends. One of them is right hand thread, one of them is left hand thread. I don't know which one is which. Okay? They have jam nuts on them. I have to break the jam nuts loose on both of them. And then I'm gonna turn the center section of the tie rod with both ends still attached. One's attached to the spindle, one's attached to the steering post. Okay? And that's gonna lengthen or shorten that tie rod. That's why they are one left-handed, one right-handed.
Is it kind of like the length on like your gear shift lever when you take it off from the bottom?
Yep, just like that. Yep, so that's what we're gonna do, right? So I'm gonna come in here and I kinda have to feel which way my jam nut breaks loose. Doing this by braille just a little bit, right? Oh, this jam nut's loose because students. So the outer one was loose. Same reason the lug nut's falling out.
Did jam nuts have a torque spec?
They probably do. They're hard to torque, but you can do it with a crow's foot. That has crow's feet. You can
Okay.
torque those with. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've ever torqued a tie rod jam nut.
Just make sure it's tight.
So I just tried to break this one loose, and it felt like it got tighter. So I'm gonna turn around and go the other way. That's my left-hand thread side. Okay, jam nut's loose. Anybody want to get in there and look at it?
Yep.
It's gonna look the same on the outside as what you can see there on the inside tie rod, right?
Is that the little skinny one?
Yep.
Okay.
Dale? Okay. This tie rod has a little tiny flat on it. Sometimes you can just grab them with your hand and turn them. If you want a reference point of how much you've turned it, a lot of times I will take a Sharpie and just draw a line on top of it. So I know how many turns I have made, right? If I wanted to count half turns or turns, then I could keep track of what I'm doing, right? So, but I want you guys just to see what happens here. So I'm just gonna start cranking this sucker.
Where it is now, you're.
Yeah. So the reason I would want to know that is, let's say that when I checked this, the toe was correct, but the bars were crooked. Right? So maybe I set my rod up here and I had 1/2 inch toe in. And I knew from checking it with Ryan that my toe was actually 0. So what that means is my bars are off, but I still want to have 0 toe, okay? So that means I want to take both of my front tires and move them the same amount, right? So maybe I'm going to go 1 turn on the left shorter, 1 turn on the right longer to bring that to center, right? So sometimes that toe is right, but I need to move the handlebars. I move the handlebars by doing both tie rods equal opposite. Make sense?
Oh, because if it's not just one tire that's off, you gotta not mess the tires up while you're trying to fix the steering wheel.
Yeah, if I just fix this one, then the toe's gonna be wrong, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it'll save me time if I count those turns, right? All right. So let's just screw this thing up. So I'm gonna go longer, right? You guys should be able to just watch that tire move. See it moving?
Could hear it.
Okay, move a bunch. Which way did I go?
You brought it to the left.
Yeah, so what did I do to my toe? Toe out.
Yeah.
Where's the handlebars gonna go? Let's say I left this toed out like this and went and drove it.
And you're gonna go left.
Handlebars will go to the right.
Huh?
Well, wait, right, more right to keep it straight.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're gonna end up driving straight is the thing. So if I have an inch of toe out, I have the toe screwed up right really bad and it has an inch of toe out, I'm not gonna drive it with the right tire straight and the left toed out. I'm gonna split it to drive straight. It's gonna be darty, it's gonna wear tires out, all of that stuff. But if I just aim down the road and correct to straight, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go like this. Where do my bars go? I'm gonna have the bars turn right when I'm going straight. If you can learn to think about it like that, this gets pretty easy.
You should be able to let it drive back.
It should still pretty much go straight. A bunch of toe out, it's gonna be nervous and darty, right? If it was a bunch of toe in, they'll go straight. Right? It'll just have the bars straight. That's why they let the tire out loose. They got it jammed so tight that it spins the whole tire out. Yeah. So you might have to hold the tie rod with another wrench. Okay? Break that loose.
Can you think about this in relation to like something you can't see, like this is toe out and toe in, but this would be cambered?
Yeah. Yep. That's correct. Okay. So now we should be able to just look at this. Fingers right. We should be able to probably just, if I put the bars straight-ish, we should be able to just look at this thing.
Ooh, that looks so good.
Nothing pissed me off worse than walking through the showroom and seeing something. It was like visibly jacked up.
So to make it go straight, how far over? Is that straight?
That's a little past straight. Maybe a little more, yeah, something like that.
So you can really see it in the tire.
I think if you sit on that, those bars go out. They look there.
You can see it here. You can tell by where it is. But you'd have to sit on it to really be looking for it.
Some people are less sensitive to it. I'm super annoyed by it. My PGI guys always thought I was like super sensitive. Like, nobody would care about that. I care about that. Make it right. I don't want stuff going out with jack. If I crash my motorcycle motorcycle and twist the front end, I will stop at every fence post I find until I get it back right. Smash the window against it, push straight. My wife gets a really quick. She's like, "Can we go?" Just a little. Get it. Bothers me.
So to fix this, you have to shorten this to the right.
Yeah, that is like it, right? All right, so here's a cheater way for Grayson when he's on flat road. Right? A lot of times, if I'm doing a PDI, I do it this way rather than doing a full alignment. Okay, I know it's a new machine, nothing should be bent. Okay, I go drive the thing down the road, steering wheel's off to the right. Okay? I go check the toe, right? And it's towed, let's say, out. What can I do? If I want the steering wheel to come back left, if I just think it through, it was towed out and the steering wheel was right. If I bring this left one in, it's going to bring it back closer to center. Back to my Sharpie mark, Joe. You drive enough machines, you drive enough Can-Am Commanders over and over, you know that this much off on the steering wheel is 3/4 of a turn of the tire rods. Right? And I check the toe and I go, oh, well, the toe's in spec, the steering wheel's off by X, shorter 3/4 of a turn, longer 3/4 of a turn. Go confirm. Right? If the toe's right and it drives straight, you're done. Right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Maybe. If everything's straight. They're not always built totally symmetrical, so you can't rely too much on the tie rod threads. If you're assembling from scratch, you can measure the tie rod threads and get yourself in a ballpark, right? So he's talking about looking at both ends of both tie rods and see how many threads are exposed, so you can get them the same length. That is a technique you can have in your pocket, but it's probably not what I rely on. Okay.
So to establish the toe on both sides when you can't reliably expect them to be straight forward with the handlebars, you're doing it from the back tire on both sides. To make sure that they're straight.
We measured from this one to that one, remember? Right off of that. You could do 2 rods, you can measure it on both sides. Like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? But when Ryan and I first started, he held my tape on this side, and
That's right.
We just physically measured the toe.
So it has nothing to do with the steering wheel at that point. You could do it turned and it still should be the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
The toe can
Okay.
be correct and the bars can be correct.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay, let's talk about one last thing here. You don't have to listen to me anymore today. We kind of trusted that this was straight to establish our alignment bar, right? And I've talked about on the longer machines, I'm not psyched about measuring that off the rear wheel. Okay. So how are we going to get some reference to set that mark? Thanks, man. Might take some creativity. So if you find the center of the machine, front and back, like, I don't know, maybe this hitch. Even better, actually, would be as if I measured these 2 tires. Right? That hitch might not be in the center. If I measure where these 2 tires are apart on the floor, let's say, 27 inches. What's half of 27 inches? 13 and a half. Right? So I could go to 13 and a half and I could put a piece of tape with a Sharpie mark right there on the floor. Right? And then I could go do the same thing in the front. Right? On a vehicle that had a straight frame rail, I could drop plumb bobs off the frame rails. Everybody know what plumb bob is?
Yeah.
It's a weight on a string with a point, right? It'll go to straight. If I hang it off of something, it'll go to straight, right? And I can put a straight level mark on the floor from there, right?
Laser plugs are amazing.
That's lasers are what's it's just way less time consuming to set them up. I do everything on my race car with a laser. It's so, like, I used to do it all with strings and plumb bobs and levels, and it took hours to align a race car. And it's so fast with a 3-axis laser. I have a frame rail on my race car that is straight, and I align the laser to that, and then it gives you another laser at 90 degrees and another laser at ground level. And, like, I can measure ride heights off of it. It's changed my life. But they're not cheap, right? That's a $700 tool. So that not all of us are going to buy to align somebody's home. Right? So we need some other strategies. So if I can find the center of those two wheels in the back, I can put a mark on the floor here, I can put a mark on the floor up there, and I can measure out to my bar from there, right? Yeah? Good with that? Okay, on a side-by-side, you're gonna wanna do something more like that. It doesn't have to be the wheels. On those razors where the inner radius rods mount, there's a suspension pivot point there. Those radius rods are the same length, right? So I can drop a plumb bob off of both of those and find the center of that mark. Good with that? Okay. Just think it through. This is not situationally always going to be the same. On a solid axle four-wheeler, I'm not at all afraid to do it the way we just did. Okay. But on independent rear suspension that has more links, that could be different lengths and more adjustment problems, right? We're going to have to work harder to find some kind of a situation.
Maybe just measuring the toe of your rear tire.
You could, yeah. That'd be a good indicator, right? So we could check the toe to see if that was right before we started. However, the toe could be correct but crooked, right? I've seen that on razors where they're zero toe but they're pointed off to some other side. That's an issue we have to fix because that's going to create alignment problems too. Right? What else? Another thing that does sometimes work, this actually works decent on side-by-sides that have the same front and rear wheels, is I have had decent luck measuring like to the center cap of the wheel to set my alignment bar. Right? So if I go to the center of that wheel, pull a measurement to my bar, pick a number, maybe I set it at 12 inches, I go to the front here, set it at 12 inches, right? That's right at hub height. That works if the wheels are the same front and back, and the track width is the same front and back, but it is not always. But before I did it that way, I would want to measure my track width, right? That's how long the tires are actually running. So I measure center to center here, do the same in the front, right? If that's the same measurement, then I can run my bar off of the wheels that way. But sometimes they're wider in the back, sometimes they're wider in the front, so you need to confirm that before you get that way.
And it's wheels, not tires.
Yeah. You could technically do it off the tires if the wheel offset.
I was saying sometimes the wheels are the same, but the tires aren't,
Yeah,
right?
but if you look at this, I mean, that front tire is several inches narrower.
Yeah.
That's not going to work on this four-wheeler. If I did it like that, that bar would be towed in, right? So there's some critical thinking thought processes that go into this. We don't have alignment racks like the automotive guys in books full of specs. You just pull it in, shoot some lasers, and do it, right? Super easy, yeah. We don't have that luxury. This is like, we're living in the Stone Age in the power sports industry, so
Are there people that just do alignments like that's their job?
not enough demand for it. Not yet. Maybe with more side-by-sides there will be. Yeah. I would argue that most side-by-sides that most people are riding around in the desert on Saturday have serious alignment. If you just go walk around and look at side-by-sides, you'll be like, oh, that one has camber, this is towed, the rears are all jacked up on them.
People just deal with it, huh, usually?
People, they ride them in the dirt, so they're less sensitive to it because stuff's sliding around anyway. People just deal with it.
I bet Jared knows.
Jared knows because I have aligned Jareds.
Oh.
Because it bothered me to look at it. It didn't bother him that much. Kind of walked by and his right ear just towed out 2 inches.
Like Jared. Did you tell him you're going to do it, or you just do it and
We
say,
actually ran out of it. I told them I'm aligning your razor. I think I did it in this class last year. We actually ran out of adjustment. So the frame manufacturing is bad enough that I had like radius rods maxed out, buried, and still didn't have the alignment right when I was out of adjustment. And that's a razor that's not been rolled. They're not great. At least not that he's in this.
I would write a strongly worded email. Go, what's wrong with you people?
Okay, any questions? Feel okay about this? I gave you guys like